What if I told you guys that God's first encounter with Saitama was as early as the very first chapter? Yeah, I know it sounds kind of hard to believe, but I think we've gotten enough evidence and God encounters throughout the manga since then that kind of give us a good idea of exactly how far back God's relationship with Saitama really goes. The possibility of this could imply that God has been planning for a way to deal with Saitama from the very beginning. So bear with me until the end of the video, and I'm sure I'll have you a lot more convinced than I do right now. But just before we get into everything, if you guys enjoy One Punch Man content, then this is the only place you'd ever have to be, because I post One Punch Man content multiple times a week. You can ask anybody in the comments, they'll tell you there is no shortage of One Punch Man content here. I post theory videos like this, do general discussions, and more importantly, do chapter reviews, where I am probably the first guy to get a One Punch Man chapter review out as soon as a chapter drops. So you definitely want to be subscribed with those notifications on, so you can be the first person in town to know as soon as the next chapter comes out. So with that being said, let's get into it. So as many of you have probably already guessed by now, the first encounter with God that I am referring to here is when Saitama fights Vaccine Man. And of course, Vaccine Man is the very first monster that we see Saitama defeat at the very beginning of the series in chapter 1 and in episode 1 of the anime. Vaccine Man straight up bursts onto the scene using these energy orbs to destroy everything around him, just completely devastating the city that he is attacking. And just as he's about to kill an innocent girl, this is when Saitama, our boy, our hero, swoops in and saves the day. And as we all know, although Vaccine Man apparently had the cooler backstory than Saitama, that didn't matter at all, because he just got one-shotted by him without Saitama even breaking a sweat, introducing us to our ultra powerful main character. Well, at the time, it seemed just kind of like a, funny bit, a really good introduction to the character that is Saitama, him being this godlike being, this ultra powerful hero that has absolutely nobody that can stand up to him, someone that is so bored because he cannot find a worthy opponent that he gets more upset about a monster dying so quickly on him than worrying about the insane destruction that he just caused. Well, looking forward to a lot of God occurrences, a lot of God interactions as the manga has gone along. In hindsight, the appearance of Vaccine Man really is foreshadowing the influence that God is going to have on the series going forward, because a running theory here is that Vaccine Man was actually the very first God disciple or God avatar that we see presented in the series. And there is some evidence to back this up. This isn't just some kind of, wild theory claim, because as we all know, Vaccine Man's kind of backstory, or his, reason for being, is, in his own words, he was born from the Mother Earth and its will to eradicate humans who have been destroying the planet. And honestly, this is not the only time we've heard a similar backstory or reason for being from super powerful monsters that have a relation with God. As we see in the Monster Association arc, when Elder Centipede and Evil Natural Ocean show up to quote-unquote destroy the fist that has turned against God, Sage Centipede also points out that they were born from the will of Mother Earth to do what I just said, eradicate the fist that is turned against God. And it makes it kind of interesting, because I really don't think that one would write them, having similar motivations or kind of giving the same spiel about being born from the Mother Earth and all that without it having an actual reason. And I think this is the reason here, because one wants us to kind of know subtly that Sage Centipede being a creation of God parallels Vaccine Man also being another creation of God that we see in the very first episode / chapter. And aside from that, as we all know, in the first episode and the first chapter, we see that Vaccine Man has these ultra powerful energy orbs that he just dishes out on the city, causing this massive destruction. Like, each one of these energy blasts is like a straight up nuke hitting on the city. And these energy blasts are very, very similar to the ones that we see Homeless Emperor use. And of course, we know Homeless Emperor is a direct disciple of God. There's, no denying that, because we literally see in a flashback that God bestows this power on Homeless Emperor. So that lets us know that he has the capacity to bestow these types of powers on anybody or anything. So it kind of makes more sense that such an ultra powerful dragon level monster like Vaccine Man would just pop up with all these insane abilities. It makes it a lot less of like a random occurrence and more of an actual event that was organized orchestrated by God, because these energy blasts really are like 1-for-1 copies of each other. And again, I don't think this is like lazy art, lazy writing. I think this is very intentional. I think Homeless Emperor's abilities and the reveal of them being from God himself was a good way to tie back to that first episode and chapter. Again, kind of hinting towards us that Vaccine Man himself was also a disciple or avatar of God. And of course, it's really important to note that every disciple, every avatar of God kind of has a very similar motivation, and that's to basically eradicate the human race. These are individuals that have a deep hatred towards humans and their effects on the earth, or the way the social structure of the world is currently going. Again, if we go back to Homeless Emperor, he hated humanity. He hated the way humans were destroying the planet, just like how Vaccine Man also claimed that he came to eradicate humanity because of the effect they were having on the planet. And looking to the most recent avatar of God, Garo, we see that of course he also has a deep hatred towards society and humanity. And in both instances where God says to Homeless Emperor and to Garo that he will bestow power on them and they will know what to do with it, well, of course what they do with that power following them receiving it is cause massive destruction and wreak havoc on humanity, weakening the planet, weakening humanity, much like what Vaccine Man was doing and what he probably was going to go on to do if Saitama hadn't showed up. Now, if Vaccine Man was in fact a disciple or a direct creation of God, of course, after being so quickly destroyed by Saitama, God would have had to notice like, hey, what the hell just happened? You know, what happened to this ultra powerful monster I created? What could have possibly defeated it so quickly? Well, assuming that God has that level of coherence, we don't know exactly how close of a tie he has to the human realm outside of, you know, moments where his dimensional barrier is weakened or he can just quickly influence people on Earth. It is worth noting that if he was made aware of Vaccine Man being destroyed so quickly, it would make sense that God, since that moment, went on to take measures to find the being that was strong enough to destroy Vaccine Man, or plan on creating more and more powerful monsters as kind of, you know, upgrades, you know, Vaccine Man 2.0, which of course would be like Elder Centipede, God Garo, etc. And as we learned in one of the more recent chapters of One Punch Man, we know that Blast has been constantly battling with God for the past 20 years. And it wasn't until about 2 years prior to the current events of the manga that he actually had a direct battle with God. So maybe after this hard-fought battle where God pretty much defeats Blast, or, you know, he seems to be defeated because we see that he's just totally beaten up in this panel right here. Maybe this is when God kind of set the plan forth to create Vaccine Man and have him wreak havoc on the earth because he knew that Blast was off doing something else. Blast was not around to stop this major threat like he was when Elder Centipede came to wreak havoc on Earth. These two scenarios very much parallel each other because you can consider, you know, Blast versus Elder Centipede like what Saitama versus Vaccine Man was. It was kind of like God's way of beginning his, you know, quote unquote invasion on the earth, weakening it, destroying as much as they could, and in the end kind of being halted by this ultra powerful hero. It's kind of still a mystery as to how God doesn't know that Saitama was the one that defeated Vaccine Man, but we can kind of chalk this up to him maybe assuming that Blast was the one to do it. Maybe he kind of, you know, thought that he miscalculated and he thought that Blast wouldn't show up to defeat Vaccine Man because he was off doing other stuff, but in fact he ended up doing it and not realizing that it was actually Saitama. Or again, he doesn't have that level of, you know, coherence or awareness of the earth itself to kind of see exactly what it is that's going on at that current time. Maybe it wasn't until Saitama got punched into the moon so hard that it might have, you know, maybe awakened God, that God was able to actually reach the earth more clearly. But, you know, that's a topic for another video. But what did you guys think about this one? What did you guys think about the possibility of Vaccine Man being God's very first avatar or disciple to appear in the series? I, for one, think it's all but confirmed, seeing as how all these connective tissues kind of make a lot more sense. But, you know, what do you guys think? That's the opinion that really matters, right? Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know if you think there's a different reason for Vaccine Man showing up to Earth. I'm very much looking forward to hearing it. And if you guys enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and check out some of the other One Punch Man videos I have on this channel. I'm sure you'll enjoy those if you enjoyed this one. But that does it for today's video, guys. Have an absolutely amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one.